All right, welcome back. Looking at the Central Division projections. Again, this is projections for this upcoming season as to how a team may do or approach, free agency, the draft, the trade market, and perform into this upcoming season. Keep in mind, it's only June. It's June 23rd is the day I'm recording this. We haven't had the draft yet. We haven't had free agency open up yet. We've only seen 3 buyouts so far. So anything can happen, and that's always welcome because that's always a lot of fun. But in terms of where teams are right now and how they project for this upcoming year at this moment in time, that's what I'm doing, and let's talk about it. First off, these little numbers and donations. The Y, Avalanche won the Central Division last year. The X means the Stars, Wild, and Jets all made the Stanley Cup playoffs. The 1 means they were out in the first round of the playoffs. Jets lost in the first round, Wild lost in the first round, Avalanche lost in the first round. Stars made it to the East or Western Conference Finals, so the series just before the Stanley Cup. Keep in mind that the Seattle Kraken played with these 3 teams because of the wild card situation. The Jets were playing in the Western, the Pacific Division. All right, let's talk about where teams are and so on. Again, I got these donations over here. I got these markers. Teams projected to get better. There you go. Stay the same. Get worse. Those are the symbols. I also have cup contenders, playoff teams, fringe playoff teams. Now, I'm going to start off with saying the Avalanche. This is one of those things where who knows what's going on. I have them getting worse. At this point in time, they only have one center signed in Nathan MacKinnon. If you consider Landeskog signed and that as a center, great. We don't know if Landeskog is going to come back. I hope he does. He's one of the players I love to hate. I'm not a Landeskog fan, but he's a very good NHL player. He's solid. He's vital to this Avalanche team. He's the captain. He's a leader. He's very versatile. He can play on the penalty kill. He can play on the power play, on the wing, through the middle. Right? He's a key piece that they need. There's question marks around him, and aside from Nathan MacKinnon, you don't have anyone else signed through for your center. There's a lot of questions on the offensive side. We know Erik Johnson isn't going to come back. There's some guys that need extensions, like Bowen Byram and whoever. Are you going to run it back and re-sign JT Compher as your second-line center, or can you do better? It's a tough year to kind of improve your team if you need to. So I have, at this moment in time, the Avalanche getting worse. They could surprise everybody and just get a lot better. They have a little bit of cap space to work with, not a whole lot. They have some assets, not a whole lot. They're going to have to do a lot through the free agent market and maybe the trade market. They don't have a whole lot of assets to trade, though. I do have them as a playoff team still. And I think you'll see why as we progress through this. This list, the Stars, I got staying the same. I have them as a playoff team, if not a cup contender. That looks like a PK. That's a P/C, I promise you. The Stars are going to run it back with pretty much the same team from last year. As we talked about with the New York Islanders, the Stars have Ryan Suter. Ryan Suter has 2 years left, a cap hit of like 3.6 or something. No movement clause, 35-plus contract. Suter is still on the decline. He's been on the decline for years. That's what happens with older players. But how is he impacting that locker room? We've heard stories about his time in Nashville. We've heard stories about his time in Minnesota. And none of those stories are positive, and a lot of them are from former teammates, coaches, and players. So questions about that. If they buy him out, you gotta figure out who you're gonna place on that top line pairing with Heiskanen. But that could help your locker room and improve your team. But for the most part, the team's going to be the same. They're probably going to make the playoffs with guys like Roope Hintz and Robertson. They're going to be fine. My question is Pavelski. How does he come back? Is he still the same guy? He's had many concussions at this point. He came back pretty strong in the playoffs, but that could be a temporary thing. So we'll see with Pavelski. He's again, getting older. We have this conversation every year. When's he going to start dropping off in play? And he seems to sustain his top tier play. Question with Pavelski: can Sagan and Ben both keep their bounce back going? They're not going to be point per game players, but can they at least give you 60, 70 points? Because you need that from your depth down the middle. All right, next up, Minnesota Wild. I got the Wild getting worse. And I think they're a fringe playoff team. There's a lot of directions the Wild could go in. I'm going to do my annual. I don't know why. The Wild is they're just a fascinating organization. I'll do my annual armchair GM of the whole Minnesota Wild and what they should do now and how it'll affect them in a couple of years and so on. But right now, this is the time you're dealing with those Parise Suter buyouts, $14.7 million against the cap this year and next year. Not a whole lot of space to work with for your cap, not a whole lot of room to sign players to bring them in to be a competitive team. You have the number one rated prospect pool from last year. Last offseason was rated number one. You got to start bringing these guys into the lineup. You got to start playing them. You got to start developing them at the NHL level. That's what they need to do. That being said, if they do that, they will definitely take a step back. They could go out and sign a couple of veterans. They could re-sign some of the veterans that are on their team. But that's just asking for another year of mediocrity or another year of a first-round playoff exit. Another late first-round draft pick. You're going to lose Matt Dumba. It just is what it is. You got to re-sign Gustafsson. You're going to have Fleury as the backup this year. There's a lot of sure things, but there are a lot of question marks with this team. I think they'll still be a fringe playoff team even if they play the younger kids. I think there's a lot of talent there and a lot of the guys that are ready to step into a full-time NHL job that can produce. But I don't see them getting better. I don't see them being over 100 points this upcoming year. And honestly, that's okay. They need to develop their young talent to sustain success in the future. Next up, Winnipeg Jets. Definitely worse. It's like, what is there, 4 guys on their team that want out at this point? You got your Vezina caliber goalie in Hellebuck. You have Scheifele, who seems to be wanting out. You have Dubois making it clear he's like he wants to be in Montreal. He doesn't want to be in Winnipeg. He won't sign long term. He might not even sign another year this upcoming year, even though he's a restricted free agent. Not a whole lot of options. He can sign or not play if the Jets decide not to trade him. But even so, when he did play for the Jets, some of his games were questionable. Blake Wheeler's also on the market, allegedly. There's a lot of questions with the Winnipeg Jets. Who are you going to get back? Is this a time to sell off and really gain assets and gain draft picks and maybe do some type of rebuild? It's tough. That's tough. A team that hasn't been overly successful or even a perennial playoff team. They've been very mediocre for many years. So it's tough if you're not having success and you need to go through a rebuild. That's not fun for the fans. So I don't know, but the Jets are in a really tough situation right now. And honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with their locker room. So I'm just going to leave that as is. I don't want to start speculating. Next up, I got the Predators. Changing markers right here. They're going to be about the same. Yeah, I don't see them getting a lot worse or better. They're going to have roughly the same team again. You got Duchesne, you got Johansson, you got Forsberg. None of those guys scored at a point per game this past year. All those guys are making $8 million. Forsberg $8.5 million. You need more from your top paid players. You just do. Forsberg was also hurt. I think he played like 50 games or something, so he missed like 32-ish, somewhere around there. But you need more from those guys, and you're not getting it. And history would tell you, aside from the 1 or 2 breakout years that each player has had, there's not a whole lot there. Forsberg's been the most consistent. I think he's hit 40 goals once, and I think his next highest is, God, don't quote me on this, I think it's 28 goals. I don't know that he's hit 30 goals at any other point throughout his career. Again, don't quote me on that. I don't have his sheet up right in front of me. But you need more from your top paid players, and you're not getting it. You're trying to develop your bottom players, but you've been such a mediocre team for so long that you don't have these high-end first-round draft picks to bring in and develop. New GM, new coach coming in. It's going to be a pretty big refresh. The team has a lot of draft picks and is gearing towards a rebuild, but at this point, with the team they have, some of these contracts are untradeable, undumpable, without bundling assets with them. I think it's another year of mediocrity, and then if they want to pursue the rebuild further, next year would be the year where they start tanking, essentially, where they just have a brutal season. Next up, Blues. The Blues are tough to predict. Staying the same or getting worse. Okay, we'll start from the bottom up. Their goaltender, you have Jordan Binnington, and I don't know. Oh, they have Hofer in the AHL. Is Hofer your backup goalie now, or is he your starting goalie? And you have Binnington as your backup goalie. Binnington was this 3 years in a row. He's had around a .900 save percentage. That's not okay. That's not good. There'll be a lot of shade thrown at the defense too, and it's understandable. They played kind of awful this past year, but in general, the defense is pretty solid. I don't think you have to tweak too much. Nonetheless, the Blues are looking to move a defenseman. They have a lot of money tied up in some of these players. Reallocating that money to help the team in other ways may be beneficial. So if they move a defenseman, how do you replace that? How do you fill that? You move a guy like Torrey Krug. How are you going to replace his offensive production? You move a guy like Nick Leddy. How are you going to replace that big body physical defenseman in your own zone? There are questions. You need your goaltending to be good. You need to be better than what it is. You need your defense to play better than what it did last year. Your offense lost players that you began the season last year with that contributed. Ryan O'Reilly, Tarasenko. You haven't replaced that production yet. So, and there's not a whole lot out there to re-sign and bring in newer guys. They do have assets, though. That's the thing. There are a few guys, a few prospects that would be pretty big trade pieces. They have 3 first-round picks. 2 of them are very, very late first-round picks. But they have some first-round picks to deal out. In a deep draft, they could be worth a little more than the 28th pick. Maybe worth a little more than the 28th pick was last year. A lot of question marks around the Blues and the Avalanche. There's a lot they can do, but they need to do it. Otherwise, I don't know. Those are 2 teams that's kind of too hard to determine right now. Next up is the Coyotes too. I don't really know what to expect from them this year. I am going to say better though. I don't think they're that much better. They're not going to be that much better. Their defense is like I don't even know who's on their defense right now. They'll have some guys on offense. They have some key guys that are very good NHL players. They're bringing in their young guys to actually get exposure and play some games. Michelli looked good. Jack McBain looked good. They have some guys in the AHL that should see full-time NHL work this year. So there's potential there. If these younger guys break out in their rookie years, fantastic. Not usually the case. I'm not expecting that. So I don't think they'll be much better, but I think they'll improve. I think they'll win a few more games. Blackhawks, though, staying about the same. I think they're still a bottom-feeding team next year. Got my Blackhawks jersey on. Number 1 overall pick, Connor Bedard. Wednesday will officially be under Blackhawks control in terms of his contract and signing rights. I don't know. Other than that, I mean, you can sign some pieces here and there. You can trade for some pieces here and there. But overall, there's only so much you can do. You need multiple defensemen. You don't really have much scoring at all. Bedard will help with the scoring. I don't think he's going to be an absolute dud. He'll probably get time with Athanasiou. But other than that, there's not a whole lot there. Stalock, another year older, unrestricted free agent. He definitely won the Blackhawks some games last year. He had some outstanding games. Good for Stalock. Love Stalock. Always been a Stalock fan. But you need to re-sign him if you want to keep winning games. So I don't know. I don't really know what to expect from the Blackhawks this upcoming year. I would say they'll probably hit 60 points They're probably around the 60-point team this upcoming year. They're probably not going to be in last place, but they're going to be like pretty close to last. So that's the Blackhawks. This division, I think, is going to start struggling this upcoming year for various reasons. I think it's going to benefit the Avalanche and the Stars quite a bit. It could benefit a team like the Blues if they stay the same roughly. They could be a fringe playoff team in this division, which would be fine, especially if the Jets lose all their pieces and the Preds really commit to the rebuild this year. They move some of these bigger contracts out. Yeah. So, again, I'm going to do projections for season standings at the end of the summer before the season starts. I don't really know when the fall starts because, I don't know. It's one of the months like September, October. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so that'll be projections for, season standings and so on. And those are always fun and always wrong, but like it's fun. But this is kind of where teams are trending towards and what we can kind of expect from them. Avalanche, Stars should be the top two teams in the division. Shouldn't be any question about that. They both should make the playoffs. The Stars should be a Stanley Cup contending team. I don't see any reason why they can't be or shouldn't be or won't be. The Avalanche also should be. Again, they need to figure out their offense and ways of acquiring centermen, which are every team wants and for the most part needs. Not every team needs centermen, but most teams need centermen pretty badly. You're going to have to overpay for one of those guys. You're going to have to do it via the trade market unless you want a guy like JT Compher back. So questions. We'll see what happens. Let me know who you guys think is going to get better, worse, stay the same. Arizona Coyotes going to get better. What are the Blues going to do? What are the Avalanche going to do? What are the Wild going to do? We know what the Stars are going to do. They're going to be the same. What are the Jets going to do with all these guys that want out? And we'll get into Calgary coming up in this next video I'm going to do. A lot of questions in this division. A lot of questions. I know I have a lot of these teams getting worse. Like the Avalanche, I don't know how much worse they'll get. I know they already had a down year last year. The Stars, they had a pretty solid year last year. They could get a little better. I don't know. It's the same team. Might be a weaker division overall. I don't know. The Wild, probably not going to be a 100-plus point team. Jets, probably not going to make the playoffs this upcoming year with all those guys gone if they don't get adequate replacements. Predators, we're just going through the teams again now. So I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you watching. Let me know what you think. Take care, all right?